Real Madrid already had the stars, but that was never the real problem. Mbappe can destroy space. Vinicius can break a defensive line. Bellingham can decide a game from midfield. What Madrid still needed was something individual brilliance cannot guarantee, a structure capable of making all that talent dangerous at the same time. And now look at what has changed. Mourinho is back. Bernardo Silva gives Madrid another source of control. Arda Güler is taking more responsibility. The midfield suddenly has different profiles for different problems. And when Madrid needed a winner in their first league game, it was not Mbappe or Vinicius who delivered it. Carlos Espí came from the bench and struck in the final moments. But here is the twist. This team is nowhere near finished. The attack is still finding its rhythm. The midfield still has questions. The chemistry is still developing. Yet Madrid are already finding different ways to win. That is why the scary part is not the 11 players Mourinho can start. It is how many different versions of Real Madrid he may eventually be able to build. And to understand why that matters, you first have to understand what Madrid were actually missing. But this is where the problem becomes obvious. Real Madrid did not need another reminder of how talented they were. They needed control over what happened between the moments of brilliance. When a game opened up, Madrid could be devastating. Give Vinicius space, and he could attack it. Give Mbappe a defensive line to run behind, and one pass could change everything. Let Bellingham arrive around the box, and suddenly another threat appeared. But elite football does not always give you those conditions. Some opponents refuse to open the game. Some press the first pass. Others drop 10 players behind the ball and force you to create the same opening again and again. That is where talent has to become structure. Madrid needed cleaner progression. They needed players capable of deciding when to accelerate and when to slow everything down. They needed a team that could still control the match when the superstars were not producing superstar moments. Mourinho inherited extraordinary weapons, but the challenge was never collecting more of them. The challenge was connecting them. And that is what makes his new midfield so interesting, because instead of giving Mourinho one answer, Madrid may have given him several. Now look closer, because Mourinho's biggest weapon may not be a single player, it may be options. Bernardo Silva can give Madrid patience and control in possession. Arda Güler can receive between lines, turn, and find passes that immediately change the direction of an attack. Bellingham gives them something different: power, movement, and the ability to arrive where defenders do not want another body. Valverde can stretch a game with running and intensity. Tchouaméni can protect the structure when Madrid needs stability. Camavinga can carry through pressure and turn a defensive situation into progression. These players do not solve the same problem, and that is exactly the point. Mourinho does not have to force one midfield combination into every match. Need more control, the profile changes. Need more running, the profile changes again. Need to protect a lead or attack a second ball, another solution is already sitting inside the squad. This is not simply depth. Depth gives you replacements. This gives Mourinho the possibility to change the personality of the team without changing its ambition. And the real value appears when you look at what those choices can do for the players ahead of them. And this is what Mbappe and Vinicius could gain. They do not need more touches, they need better touches. There is a huge difference. If Mbappe has to keep dropping away from goal just to connect an attack, the defense has already won something. If Vinicius receives with two defenders waiting and no movement around him, his individual quality has to solve a structural problem. But give Madrid cleaner progression through midfield and the picture changes. Bernardo can help attract pressure before releasing the next pass. Arda can receive in pockets that force midfielders to turn toward their own goal. Bellingham can run beyond the ball and occupy another defender. Suddenly Mbappe can stay closer to the spaces where one movement becomes a chance. Vinicius can receive against a defense that has already been moved, rather than one standing perfectly in position. Now the opponent has a decision to make before either superstar even gets the ball. Step toward Madrid's creators and space begins to appear behind you. Stay compact and those creators get more time to find the next pass. That is the tactical change worth watching. Mourinho does not need to make Mbappe or Vinicius more talented. He needs to create conditions where their talent becomes easier to access, and Madrid's first league game offered the first small glimpse of how many different sources of danger this team could eventually have. And then came the first warning. Against Espanyol, Madrid did not produce some flawless 90-minute demonstration of the new era. That is precisely why the result matters. Bellingham opened the scoring from an Arda Güler delivery, an early example of danger arriving from somewhere other than the obvious front line. But Madrid did not simply cruise from there. Espanyol responded. The game became uncomfortable. Mbappé and Vinicius were still searching for their best rhythm, and Mourinho had to change the picture. This is where squad depth stopped being something that looked impressive on paper. Fresh profiles came into the match, the pressure continued, and Carlos Espí eventually delivered the winner in the final moments. Think about what that means. Madrid's biggest names did not have to solve everything. The team found another route. That does not prove Madrid are already the finished product. It proves something more useful at this stage. When plan A was not enough, Mourinho had somewhere else to go. Over a long season, that matters. In knockout football, it can decide everything. The most dangerous teams are not always the teams with the best first plan. They are the teams that survive when the first plan stops working. But one late winner should not hide what Madrid still have to fix. But here is the twist. Real Madrid are not terrifying yet, not in the way the title of this story suggests they could become. One victory does not prove the midfield can control the biggest Champions League nights. One late winner does not prove every attacking relationship has been solved. Mbappé and Vinicius still need the right balance around them. Bernardo has to fit into a midfield already full of elite profiles. Arda's responsibility will grow, but so will the pressure on every decision he makes. Mourinho also has to decide which qualities he is willing to sacrifice when he selects one combination over another. More creativity can mean less protection. More running can mean less control. More attacking freedom can leave larger spaces when possession is lost. This is the price of having options. Mourinho has many answers, but he still has to know which question the opponent is asking. And this is why the opening weeks matter. Madrid are not trying to discover whether their players are good enough. They are trying to discover which version of the team can survive the highest level. If Mourinho finds that balance, then the problem shifts away from Madrid. It becomes a problem for everyone trying to stop them. And this is what opponents may fear most. Imagine preparing for this Madrid when the system is finally settled. Press high and you create the very space Mbappé and Vinicius want to attack. Drop deeper and the problem changes. Bernardo and Arda have more territory to receive. Combine and move the block from side to side. Protect the centre and Madrid can use width before attacking the gaps created inside. Commit another defender to Vinicius and somebody else becomes free. Track Bellingham's run and the space he leaves can be occupied by another midfielder. Then the game reaches 60 or 70 minutes and Mourinho can change the profiles again. More control, more physicality, more direct running, a different fullback, a different midfielder, a different attacking reference. That is why the threat is bigger than any starting 11. An opponent can spend an entire week preparing to stop one structure, only for Mourinho to alter the problem once the game begins. This does not mean every solution will work. It means Madrid could become increasingly difficult to predict, and unpredictability becomes frightening when the players executing those changes are already among the best in the world. Stop one version of Madrid and Mourinho may simply build another. Which brings us back to the question this team now has to answer. So, is the new Real Madrid really terrifying? Not yet, and that may be the most interesting answer, because the frightening part is not what Madrid have already become. It is what they could become if Mourinho connects all of these pieces. The superstars were never the mystery. Everyone knows what Mbappé can do with space. Everyone knows Vinicius can destroy a defender in isolation. Everyone knows Bellingham can arrive and change a match. The question was whether Madrid could create a structure that makes those weapons appear together without becoming dependent on one of them. Bernardo can help provide control. Arda can create between the lines. Valverde, Camavinga and Tchouaméni give Mourinho completely different ways to shape the midfield. The bench gives him another layer of answers when the match changes. There are still risks. There will be combinations that fail. There will be nights when too many stars occupy the same spaces, and there will be moments when Mourinho has to choose balance over beauty. But that is the final threat. Real Madrid do not need every option to work. They only need enough of them to make the opponent's solution temporary. Press them and another space opens. Sit deep and another player becomes important. Stop the starters and the bench can change the game. Real Madrid already had the stars. Now Mourinho has the harder job, turning those stars into something repeatable, adaptable and controlled. If he succeeds, Europe will not be facing another collection of famous names. It will be facing a machine with more than one way to hurt you. The stars were already there. Now Mourinho has to build the machine.